Hey guys, Lee with LG Speed and Custom, and this is part 7 of the 32 Ford sedan build. Feeling really good about this video today. So I just got back from a morning with Matt and Max at Gas Classics. Where we took the truck tires off the 32 Ford rims, these big old honking off-road tires, and got some proper hot rod tires mounted up. So today, we're going to start by, we'll unload these out of the truck, clean them up, and put them on the car. So here's the wheel and tire combo that I'm going to put on my 32 Ford here. These are, well, we'll back up a little bit. Wheels and tires. Wheels and tires are so important. In my opinion, they are one of the most important parts of a car build. I don't care what drivetrain you have. I don't care how much horsepower you make. I don't care how flawless your paint job is, how perfect your interior is. If you have the wrong wheels and tires on your car, it's going to look terrible. And personally, I love wheels and tires because you can take, like I just said, if you have the wrong wheels and tires on the perfect car, it's going to look terrible. But if you take a not perfect car, if you take a beater, go on Craigslist or Kijiji and buy like a $500 beater, rusted fenders, scratched paint, barely runs, and you put the right wheels and tires on it, instantly you got a cool car. So wheels and tires have always been very important for me. For this car, I'm kind of building it with like a late 50s, early 60s kind of, I want to keep it kind of period correct to that style. So on that note, I have got some 560-15 Firestone white walls for the front, some 820-15 Firestone white walls for the back. I just put them on the same rims that were on the car when I got it. I think they're just like F100 rims, probably from the mid-60s into the 70s. But I didn't really care about the rims too much because you're never going to see them, because I'm going to run this Oldsmobile wheel cover. Before we put them on, though, we might clean them up a bit and paint them. I know it would probably make sense. Everyone's probably on their keyboards already. Oh, why didn't you sandblast and powder coat the wheels before you got the tires mounted? And to be honest, I was lazy. I didn't want to make 2 trips over to Gas Classics. One to get the tires taken off, then bring them back here, clean the rims up, paint them, wait for the paint to dry, then go back over there, have them mount them, risk scratching them, and then having to repaint it again. I don't have time for that. And with a full hubcap going on, I mean, you're not going to see 90% of it anyways. So I think what we're going to do is just clean them up, maybe give them a little scuff with a Scotch-Brite, and I'm just going to mask the white wall off and spray it with a spray bomb. The hubcap's going to scratch it anyways, so it doesn't matter. I don't care. As for color, the whole color with this car has been every day. It totally changes. Lately, I've been really thinking about like a Ford Robin Egg Blue. I think it's called Glacier Blue, actually. It's a late 50s, early 60s color that Ford used. Once again, to go with that like late 50s, early 60s style that I want to build. So I did consider painting the rims that blue. However, I think I'm going to go red. Just because if you look at all the old Rod and Custom magazines, hot rod magazines from that era, red rims were really popular. And personally, I really, really like the look of a hot rod with white walls, full wheel covers, and you get that little red pinstripe around there. Plus, with the red engine, I think on a blue car, it'll pop. It'll be like a pretty nice accent color. So we'll probably start this video by doing that. We'll out, get these cleaned up, blow a little bit of paint on them, clean all the dirt off these white walls, and throw them on. I'm not using anything crazy to clean these, nothing special. I just went into the shop bathroom and put a little bit of spray nine and a little bit of dish soap in a bucket. I know you're not supposed to mix chemicals and stuff, but whatever. We did. Call the chemical police. So yeah, we're just gonna give them a little scrub. Get all basically we just want to get the grease off them. Anything that won't make paint stick. So we'll give them all a scrub and then a rinse. These tires, I think in the one video where we did the acrylic top on the Model T, I took you guys up to that was the first time I took you up to the upholstery lounge, and I kind of showed a little bit of my tire collection. I am a tire collector, a tire hoarder. I have more wheels and tires than cars, and I have wheels and tires for cars that I don't even have a plan for them. They were just cool wheels and tires, so I grabbed them. I always, when I go to car swap meets, which is a lot, I'm always on the lookout for tires. These tires are very expensive. Okay, Doris, I'm filming a video right now. Shush. Come on, get over here.
Hey, see you, Doris. Have a good day.
Come on. Yeah, to buy new white walls, they're really expensive. Like, I mean, I know it's regional where you live and stuff, but here in Canada, they're about $300 a tire. And I'm not in the $300 a tire. I can't afford that. So I just go to swap meets. And when you find, lots of street rod guys, they'll buy a restored car or an older hot rod that has old bias ply tires on it. And when I say old, I don't mean like 100-year-old bias ply tires. I mean like they're like 5-year-old bias ply tires. And they're all like, oh, no, can't have bias ply tires. They drive terrible. Got to put radials on. So they put their radials on and they take their 5-year-old bias ply tires that have 50 miles on them to the swap meets. And then I get them for super cheap. I paid $100 for all 4 of these tires. So if you're looking for wheels and tires, that's what I do. And when I see them, I just grab them, whether I need them or not, because eventually, like I bought these tires a year and a half ago. They've just been sitting up there waiting. I used a little bit of just straight spray nine on the back wheels here. They had some pretty heavy grease stains on there. And it was kind of smudging around, but they're cleaning up pretty nice. I'm not getting super carried away because they're going to get all dirty sitting in the shop anyways, but if we can get them 90%, then that's good enough for me. So the worst part about washing wheels and tires and getting them ready to paint is as soon as you wash them and you're all like about to spray, water comes out of all the little crevices and cracks and stuff. So I just wiped them down with a towel as best I could, got in all the little cracks and stuff. We're going to leave them sitting here out in the sun and go to the store and get some red paint because I actually don't have any red paint. So that'll be a good excuse to let them just sit here in the sun, and hopefully by the time we get back they'll be nice and dry and we can start masking the white walls off, scuff the orange up, and blow some red in there. So just on my way back from bumper to bumper, hanging out with Chris and Rick, and good to see Glenn's back there again. I grabbed the same color that I painted the engine with. So when I painted the engine, Shannon and I we just went to Canadian Tire one night, which is like a Canadian hardware store. And that's where I first got this color. It was $31 for a can. I was like, whoa, that's insane. So when I was at Bumper to Bumper, I saw they still had it. So I asked Chris, I'm like, hey, how much is this? Got it for 14 bucks. So that was the deal of the day. Thanks, Chris. Much appreciated. So we'll get back to the shop and start painting these things. Yeah, that plan worked great. There is no more water residue anywhere. These are nice and dry. Cool. So I put some plastic over the stool here just to keep the overspray and stuff off it. And we're just going to set the wheel on the stool because then it's at work height and we can spin it. So mask the wheel off, or the white wall off, just with some tape here. And yes, I do know about the playing card trick, but I don't have playing cards. And I'm not going to go to the store and buy a pack of playing cards. For those that don't know what the playing cards trick is, if you take a deck of cards, you can stack each individual card in all the way around. Somebody posted it on the internet years ago and everybody thought it was super cool. Personally, I don't know. I don't just use masking tape like a normal person. So we'll just mask in here like so. Just got a piece of red Scotch-Brite here, and we're basically just going to rough it up. Okay, with everything all scuffed, we can start masking it up. I'm just going to mask one wheel at a time, then spray some primer on it, then set that wheel aside, mask the other one, and that way my primer's got a little bit of time to flash off in between. So this is nothing special, just regular old gray primer. I don't have a ton of this primer right now. I think I got like a half a can here. So I'm probably just going to do the outside edge, the part that's going to be visible when the hubcap's not on. Because the inside, if it doesn't get adequate primer, it'll be fine because you won't see it. So just give it a nice light coat around the outside edge. This is another nice thing about doing this on a stool is you can just stand in one spot and kind of rotate it. I think, yeah, just that lip is all I'm going to do. Because I don't want to run out of primer halfway through and have to make another trip to the store. Cool. Okay, now we're going to hit it with some red. Same thing, I'm going to focus mainly on the outside, but I am going to spray the inside as well, just so if a hubcap falls off or something, I mean, you don't look super ridiculous. Ooh, man, this stuff's got such a nice little metallic to it. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but it looks pretty good. So while those are sitting outside in the sun drying, I thought I'd take a look at the rear brakes before we put them on. And shoes aren't bad. Check the wheel cylinders really quick, because the front wheel cylinders were leaking. I've got new ones to replace those. That looks good. That looks good. Yeah, I think these are okay. They're not brand new, but they're not wore out. Passenger side looks pretty good as well. I checked the wheel cylinder and it's happy, so we can put this side back together. So I put a little bit of black paint on the brake drums and put them back together. These are nice and dry now. So let's unmask them and see how they look. Where's our tape edge here? That'll work. Ooh. Looks pretty swanky. Wow, well that looks 1,000 times better, but we can make it look 5,000 times better, and that's what we're going to do next. I've got these Oldsmobile hubcaps. I think I bought these off of Frank from the Kingsman Car Club at the Abbotsford swap meet at the Tradex. So they're in really nice shape, but they're dirty. So we're just going to get a little bit of soap and water and clean them up. I probably should have done that while those were drying, because then these could be drying at the same time, but I don't know, you can't think of everything. So we'll get some soap and water and wash those. Wash the dust away. Okay, here we are in the old research and development room. So let's do one of those. Let's throw that guy in there and add a little bit of hot water. That should work, I think. Well, that's just got water in it. Soapy water. Okay, that should be lots. Yeah. Splish splash. Oh man, these are so nice. They're almost perfect. Like these could almost go on a show car. There's not a nick or a bit of curb rash at all in them. These are possibly the nicest hubcaps I've ever had. Okay, let's put this on and see how it looks. Whoa! Oh man, that looks so good. You guys are really missing out over there. This is, man, it's something else. Wow. Well, maybe I'll do that side so you guys can see. All right, here we go. So I've got a rule that I usually live by when it comes to wheels and tires and hubcaps, and that is always put your nicest ones on the passenger side and the not nice ones on the driver's side. And the reason being is because when your car is parked on the side of the road, like you're parallel parked downtown at a show or something, all the pedestrians are walking by the passenger side. So they're up close and personal. They'll see the nicer hubcaps. Whereas the not as nice ones, being on the driver's side, the only people that are going to see the driver's side are people in cars driving by or people across the street, and you won't notice the imperfections as much. So that's kind of my rule. These hubcaps here, I went over them and they're pretty much all equal. So it's got nice hubcaps on both sides. Okay, wow, look at that. That is so cool. I love it. It looks even better than I expected. So much better than the orange rims with those truck tires. Ugh, this thing, it instantly just got like 1,000 times cooler. This is so, it's like motivational. Makes me want to keep going. Cool. All right, well, wheels and tires are done. I guess it's time to move on. Maybe we should put the engine in. Why not? So this here is our engine and transmission setup. This is the engine and transmission that came out of this car when I bought it. Other than having a fuel pump issue, it seemed to run okay. So I'm just going to put it back in. All I did to it was my friend Shane, he stripped all the old orange paint off of it and pressure washed it, cleaned it all up, and then I painted it just the same red that the rims are. It had this really, really hokey alternator system on the front. So I replaced that with a power gen, and we also put a stock fan back on the front. So in theory, you would think that this engine and transmission, because it's been in here once already, it should just fit right in. But from what I've read and talking to my friend Bruce, who he's built way more 32 Fords than I have, he said that the 8BA with a stock fan and a stock firewall doesn't quite fit that great. So we might have to get a little creative with this. We're going to use, instead of using the original 32 Ford mounts, we're going to use my LG AV8 mounts. The same ones that we used in Gordy Allberg's Roadster with the Arden, the same ones that we used on Christian's car with the Model A when we put the small block Chevy in it. If you go back some of my other videos, you can see those. But they basically just, they'll weld into the chassis somewhere in there. And these mounts here, these little rubber pucks, these are just stock flathead Ford rubber pucks. They go on the front of the water pump up here. So for the rear, it gets a little bit weird. Let me grab the camera and I'll bring you in and show you what I'm talking about. So this is an early Ford top loader 3-speed. They used this basic transmission design from 32 to like 52, I believe, in trucks, maybe a little bit sooner. But they used it in cars from 32 to 39 with the top loader, and then from 40 to 48, they went to the side shift. They were all closed driveline, like a torque tube, until 1947, when they were available open driveline in the trucks. So this has a truck open drive conversion on it. So when this transmission was used in the 32, it had like a plate right here with 2 bolts on each side that went through. And they bolted right there into this 32K member. So we don't have that anymore. We have that set up. So when this was in here before, these 2 bolts here, going through these mounts, they were literally through these holes, going down, and then the transmission was literally hanging. Now, that's a little hokey. I don't think I want to mount it that way. However, if by having it sitting in that position gets it far enough back, then that's fine. We'll just build a different source, like a different bracket that bolts onto the K member that will hold that open drive end. So I guess the only thing we can do right now is pick the engine up and slide her in and see how it fits. To get it through this hole here, when I took it off, I had to unbolt the back section and actually take that off, slide the transmission through, then slide that back on from the other side and bolt it back on. A little bit of a pain in the ass, but not a deal breaker. We can live with that, so let's see what happens. Well, that's annoying. So that's how the transmission was originally mounted. Like I said, little bit hokey, but it gets us our position where we want it to be, so we can come back and address this later. Firewall clearance, we are just barely. That's literally as far back as it can go. You can slide like a piece of paper in between there. The front though, well, Bruce, you can say I told you so, because it doesn't quite fit. So if I set the radiator up on the cross member here, we have, that's about as close as I would want the radiator to the fan. In fact, I think I'd still prefer to give it a little bit more room. And we are like 1.5 inches too far forward on this mount. So we have 2 options. We can just move the radiator 1.5 inches ahead. Cosmetically, I don't think it would really change the overall look of the car. I don't know if you'd notice it or not. However, the stock hood won't fit. Obviously, it's going to be, 1.5 inches too short. Another option is this fan. We might be able to shorten the fan up on this little shaft right here, this little snout. But we can only go back, what is that, like 3/4 of an inch? Not even. That's like 3/8 of an inch, a little over 3/8 of an inch. And if we go any further back, this blade's going to start hitting this water pump shaft. So there's that. I think the best option would be to just slide the radiator ahead ever so slightly and not tell anybody. And unfortunately, the hood that I bought probably won't work, but I guess we can always sell it again and then maybe build an aluminum hood or something. Regardless, I think this is about where the engine has to sit because we can't go any further back. it's too hard to make it go further back. We'd have to modify the K-member. I did briefly consider sliding the K-member back, but then our front wishbones aren't going to work, our rear wishbones aren't going to work. And the firewall, I'd prefer not to cut it. It's already being hammered out. Whoever put this car together the first time when they put this engine in, they did hammer the firewall a little bit to get whatever minimal clearance there is. So I think I'll just leave that and manipulate this end. I've got the mounts just kind of vice gripped in here for now. So I think I'm not going to worry about this right now. I'm going to get the engine mounts squared up, situated in there, weld them in, and then we'll worry about this another time. I'll keep thinking on it. I might brainstorm an idea through the week, or if anybody has some other suggestions that might work. I don't want to run an electric fan. It's not going to happen. I know they work good. It would solve my problem, but I want to keep it period correct and mechanical. So anyways, let's get these guys figured out. So just by total fluke, these LG AV8 mounts that I make, actually, they fit perfect. I didn't have to trim them or anything, just butt them up against the inside of the frame rail there. And we're the right width. Got a little bit of clearance. You could still get this out if you had to. So I think I've got it marked on here. We'll pull this guy out, and then we can weld these in. They're marked on both sides. Just got to line those back up, butt them up against the back side of the rail here, and weld them in. Motor mounts are all welded up. I tigged the top because it was nice and easy to get to, but I cheated and I just used the MIG on the inside here where it's not as, it's really hard to get in there with the TIG. And why work harder? Okay, let's drop this thing back in and move on. So I have an idea in my head for these transmission mounts. Basically, have like a little perch that comes off, just with a little rubber mount. The flathead mounts that we used on the front, I don't think they're going to work for this. I don't think there's enough room in here because they're like this big around. So that probably won't work, but I was just looking online and found some Volvo mounts that look like they would work pretty good. So we'll have to go to the store, go see Rick or Chris and see if they can maybe get some. In the meantime, though, we can check our pinion angle now. Remember the last video we put the rear end in, but we just tacked it because I didn't know what the pinion angle was going to be. So I just set it at 3 degrees. We just put the motor in, so now we can see what the motor's at. Let's grab an angle finder here, and I'll explain how that works. So there's a lot of confusion on the internet about pinion angles, and there doesn't need to be. It's incredibly simple. Basically, all that matters is whatever angle your engine is at, your rear end needs to be at the same, like the equal angle, so that they run in plane together. It doesn't matter if it's 3 degrees, 5 degrees, 7 degrees, doesn't matter at all. All that matters is that they're the same. A lot of people get confused, they get hung up on this 3 degrees thing. And one of the reasons why they say you're supposed to set your engine at 3 degrees is because there's like a 3-degree plane built into your intake manifold. So if your engine is sitting at 3 degrees, your carburetor should sit at 0, and therefore your floats are nice and level in your carburetor. However, as soon as you start driving down a hill, or go up a hill, or around a curve, or put bigger wheels on the back, smaller wheels on the front, your carburetor is not at 3 degrees anymore. So it doesn't matter. None of that matters. All that matters is that this and that are the same. So I just picked 3 degrees on this, just because that's kind of where it looked good. So if we take this angle finder here, this is a pretty cool little tool. I think I got this at KMS Tools. But this is magnetic, and you can basically set to wherever your bubble is level, and that'll tell you how many degrees you're at. So let's put this, we got the yoke going straight up and down, so we got a nice flat surface to go on here. If you don't have a flat surface, you can always take these hoops out and get an even flatter area. So we're going to turn this until our bubble is bam, right there. So right now we are at 91, 2, 3, 4, 95 degrees. So technically this would be at 5 degrees. When I set it at 3 degrees, the engine wasn't in yet. So I guess with the engine going in, it altered it another 2 degrees, just with the whole plane of the chassis moving. So right now this is at 5 degrees. We want our engine to match that and be at 5 degrees. So now we're up front at the crankshaft. I have left this sitting at the 5 degrees where it came off pinion. And if we put it on here, we are so close. The engine is sitting at 4.5 degrees. That is so close. I think we'll probably be fine with where our pinion is, because if we take those solid bolts out of the back and put a little rubber mount in there, that rubber mount is going to compress a little bit. And if it doesn't compress enough, we can always put like a flat washer under here, and that would raise it up a bit just to get it that extra 0.5 degrees. But in all honesty, I don't even know if a 0.5 degree would matter. It'd probably be fine. But we'll get it right at the 5 degrees that we want. Just because, I mean, we got to build a transmission around anyway, so why not? But yeah, that worked out pretty good. So our rear suspension is probably good to final weld now. As far as what we're going to do now, I don't know. I'll have to stop and have a coffee and think about that. So if you've never watched any videos on this car before, the rear axle used to be way too far ahead. So that's kind of the main reason why this car got taken apart to this extent, was to get the wheelbase straightened out again, get the back axle sitting where it's supposed to be. So that means now that the axle's back where it's supposed to be, our drive shaft's not going to fit anymore. So we need to get a measurement so that we can get it extended, a drive shaft extender, which is probably going to mean, yeah, that bottom's out right there, so let's go about there. Probably it's going to mean we're going to have to just get a whole new drive shaft built, because a drive shaft extender doesn't exist. Let's grab a tape measure, and we can see what our overall length needs to be. So we've got our slip yoke on this end. It bottoms out right there. So we should put a mark. Let me grab a grease pencil here. We'll put a mark where it's bottomed out. And then we know how much is sticking in the transmission. Not a ton. What do we got here? From the end of our slip yoke to our mark is exactly 2 inches, so we'll make a mark at 1 inch. Right there. We'll slide our yoke into that 1 inch point. And now we can get a measurement from this U-joint to this U-joint. So if we go center to center, we are at 42 7/8. We'll call it 43 inches, just for ease of math. It's okay because this will slide in and out a little bit. 43 inches, center to center of U-joint. So now we can take this to a machine shop and get them to make a new one. Ken, if you're watching this, probably going to be calling you. Ken's a friend of mine that works in a machine shop, and he makes almost all my drive shafts and does all sorts of machining. He's building a really cool Model A pickup. We should go check it out one day. Okay, so drive shaft is done. It's ready to go. We can still put the starter is just laying on the floor over there, so we'll bolt the starter on, and we don't have to trip over it anymore. And I'm sure there's a couple other little odds and ends that we can still putter away on in the meantime, just to kill off the rest of the day. It's late enough in the day that I don't want to start a whole new project, but it's early enough in the day still that I don't want to quit working on it yet. So we'll just tinker. I think I'm going to head down to Bumper and see if Rick will let me flip through his motor mount book and find something that's going to work nice for this transmission mount. Right there, that's our guy. 2684. Rick just ordered 2 of those out of Calgary. They'll be here next week. Okay, I think that's gonna wrap up this video. We just ordered those mounts. Thanks to Rick for sourcing those. But we went all the way upstairs and he let me look through all the boxes to see if we could find anything. There wasn't anything quite right. So we just flipped through the book, found lots that would work, but the hard part was finding some that were actually in stock somewhere in Canada. So that one that I showed you there, we found those. There's 2 in Calgary, so they'll be here next week. So I think I'm just gonna chill out for the rest of the day. There's a cruise night tonight, so I'll probably head over to that with the Roadster. Thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. I think we got a lot done on this video. I'm pretty excited with how it's coming together. Once this transmission crossmember is done, we can start blowing this apart, start body working and prime and paint the chassis, weld the rear suspension up, paint all that. The front suspension I want to take apart because we're going to drop the axle and maybe reverse the spring. But we'll do that. We'll do a video on that for sure. But that'll be down the road a little bit. So thanks to the Wrought Iron Haulers there's 2 songs by the Wrought Iron Haulers in this video. Much appreciated. Go check them out on Bandcamp. or get a hold of Christian Head at Headlines Pinstriping on YouTube or Instagram. Also, make sure to check us out on Instagram, LG Customs, and make sure to check out the website, lgspeedcustoms.com, where you can get yourself a LG Speed and Custom shirt, got stickers, my AV8 motor mounts that we've used in this chassis, that chassis, Christian's chassis. They work really good, so if you need a set of those, go pick them up on the website. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.